Let's do that. Let's...
Friday, 10 o'clock tune in. It's showtime, the EV Café News.
I remember the first time I heard that and thought, that is outstanding. And now I'm just like, oh yeah, that's the music. Hello and welcome to the News and Views with the award-winning EV Café. 30 minutes of what's happening in sustainable transport with expert analysis from the EV Café crew and sponsored and supported massively by Drax Electric Vehicles, the power behind the EV transition. And today we've got our very own power couple, Sarah. Hello.
Oh, hello. I mean, that music, I do not forget that music. It makes me jump every time, though. But thank you for having me.
And we've got Speedy Sam, or Streamlined Sam, as we've come to know him, because he's had a haircut.
Yes, and I think Speedy Sam might be referenced to Channel 5 by any chance.
Could be. Were you on the telly at all?
I was on the telly this week, yes. Me and Kevin.
Yeah. How would you describe that programme, Sam? Do you think it was balanced and reasonable and fair?
I've not watched all of it yet, if I'm honest, because I haven't had time. And conveniently, we were on first, so I got my bit in. But yeah, I don't know. It was an attempt at balance, but I think it was probably weighted a bit too far the wrong way. So there's a bit of misinformation in there as always. So it's always risky doing these things. You never quite know what's going to happen. But yeah, I need to watch it all through, but at least it's getting into the mainstream media more and more, right? And the topic is coming out. And if there's a bit of negativity or misinformation occasionally, that's just part of the course these days, isn't it?
So Sam's journey has been GB News, well, EV Cafe, of course, GB News, Channel 5. What next? Are we talking Hollywood? Do you think?
That's a bit of a stretch, John.
How unlike me to overstate things. Right, grab a cuppa and plug it into what's happening in clean transport this week. And coming up, the UK government is to inject £15.6 billion into regional transport. That could have massive impacts for road transport. The Road Haulage Association says decarbonisation is at risk without more government action. The used electric vehicle prices have dropped below petrol and diesel. Fascinating. And finally, we're doing a story from Michael Barton about Bristol, and I do hope Michael's here because we're doing Brizzle, mate. Bristol has launched the first electrified bus depot, so we'll all have a crack at that one at the end. Should be interesting. But first, the EV Cafe commercial clap, where we highlight innovation and new things in our industry.
The commercial clap from the EV Cafe.
Innovation applauded.
Right, we're going to start with something called Blah Blah Car. Have you heard of Blah Blah Car, Sam?
Blah blah no.
Sarah?
Absolutely, you can't miss them. They're really heavily branded.
Ah, right. Okay, this may be a sort of London, Manchester kind of jobby, I think. Don't operate in all of the UK. But anyway, since its founding, Blah Blah Car, the world's leading community-based travel and ride-sharing app, has enabled, get this, 27 million active members a year to share a ride in 21 countries over the last 5 years. They've reduced the CO2 emissions by 2.5 million tonnes last year, saved 540 million euros for carpool drivers in 2024. They've enabled 120 million human connections by ride sharing, and 92 million passengers have travelled via Blah Blah Car last year. That's fantastic. So if you're on a journey on your own, you can go into Blah Blah Car, you can find somebody who's going in the same direction, you can hook up with them, chuck them in your car, not in the boot obviously, but in the passenger seat would be nice, and then off you go. Brilliant, love that. Massive, massive impact. Next up, a big shout out to our old friend Lillian Greenwood and the UK government, who've introduced planning reforms to make it quicker, cheaper and easier to install EV chargers, helping drivers save money whilst growing the EV network. Essentially, they're getting rid of planning permission to install private and public EV charging points. And this will reduce delays, lower costs, and speed the transition, hopefully, to EV. Well done, Minister. You're making a habit of this. And finally, supply chain firm Wincanton has announced the first arrivals of 24 new electric-powered trucks joining its logistics fleet this year. Sam punches out. The company said the move represents a significant milestone as part of its investment in the necessary solutions to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2040. The new vehicles are supplied by DAF Trucks, Volvo Trucks, Steve Warts, I hope you're here, and Renault Trucks, which will be able to operate at more than 40 tonnes and are expected to reduce Wincanton's CO2 emissions by 2,400 tonnes per year. Monumental stuff there. Big congratulations to all of you. Shall we get on with the news? Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Right. Let's do it. The UK government is injecting cash into the North, Midlands and South West for buses, trams and local train infrastructure in city regions. The move, which is part of the government's plans to reduce what it describes as wide gaps between regions, comes ahead of the spending review next week. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has said that £15.6 billion of funding for local transport projects will be available in England's city regions, including South Yorkshire, the North East, the East Midlands and Tees Valley. The funding are more than double real terms increased in capital spending on local transport in city regions by 29-30. Will empower local leaders to invest in transport projects that will make a difference to their local area. Now, real terms doubling of funding doesn't happen often, and I understand that this is part of a move to reduce congestion, getting people out of their cars to make use of the roads for things like logistics that we all depend on. But what should the money be spent on? Train, tram, ride sharing? Sam, any thoughts?
I think, John, that what's interesting is I instinctively thought that investment was going to be for charging infrastructure, and of course it isn't. It's for transport of moving around, which I think is really, really good. And exactly what you said at the end there, it's important that it allows for the movement of people around, and also to free up the space for logistics as opposed to cars. The only thing that springs to mind from my own personal experience in London is that a lot of cycle lanes went in, and as a result of that, we lost a lot of double yellow lines. And double yellow lines are places that logistics park all the time. So one thing I would love to know about this is not just about how effectively this money is going to be spent pushing people around and moving people around in a more efficient environmental manner, but make sure that is also cognizant of the logistics that you refer to that also need to stop, park, even for 20 minutes, 40 minutes here or there. If we put too much infrastructure in, it prevents the logistics businesses being able to get where they need to be, and thus making more inefficiencies elsewhere. So I'm glad you mentioned logistics and haulage, because I think that's an important element to this, that we need to make sure that we're looking after all different users, and pushing cars out of towns where possible.
Now, it's an interesting perspective, Sam, using double yellow lines as a parking place. Presumably that causes untold problems with traffic wardens in cities like London.
No, it's a loading place, not a parking place. I should have said that more specifically. So, in London, for example, you're able to stop in, depending on the borough, 20 or 40 minutes. But there's lots of little yellow blips that you see on the side of the curb that also mean something different. So there's double yellow lines that are just double yellow lines you can load, and then there's other restrictions in place. It's obviously urban areas are complex, so there's different rules. And red routes, for the double reds you see in London, you can't stop there anytime. So there's lots of different rules, and but that double yellow with no other blips and no other rules, that's a godsend for a delivery company, because that's where they unload. You take all that away because you put cycle lanes in, it creates less efficient movement of freight.
Yeah, logistics, the lifeblood of society. Sarah, are you with us?
I am very much with you, but just not in face. Sorry about that.
So you're thinking on, because we often talk about the hierarchy of transport, and active travel is really, really important. Then we have public transport. Where would you like to see the money spent? Trains, bus, tram, the light commercial, light trams that we saw in Coventry last week, for instance. Really useful initiative. £
15.6 billion. I'd like to see it spent on me. No, I'm only kidding. But what I really like about this is that they're cognizant of the fact that a lot of the people in power only stay in power for 3, maybe 4 years. So they've spanned this project over 5 years, which means you can put in some meaningful infrastructure in that time. But most projects still end up being 10 years for those larger trams and railways that you mentioned. So I think they're being realistic. I think it's about improving what they've got. They talked about the extension to Stockport Town Centre, for example. And it's what we talk about when we connect people to profit. That's a phrase that I've made up, because people live in a certain area, but they need to work in another part of the area, and that only has positive stimulus elsewhere in that region. So always good to hear a doubling of funding in the local authority context.
Yeah, I chaired a conference on Tuesday, which was the Net Zero.
You did very well. It was amazing.
In
Loved
Westminster. It. Bless you. Thank you. That's very kind. But what was really good was that a number of really, really high-powered individuals came along, and they all said the same thing. We suffer from short-termism, both in terms of policy and in terms of funding. If we can't deliver it in a parliamentary term, let's not do it. And actually, as you rightly point out, these projects take a decade or more sometimes to go from idea through to delivery, and it is really important that politicians understand the long-term nature of transport revolution and change. No comment, let's move on. I think it's time for the shout outs. Shall we do it?
Yay!
Let's do it.
Yes.
Right, Daryl Sharp kicked the doors in at 7:53 this morning. It's Friday morning and I'm here feeding the boys. To what? A lion? Anyway, well done, Daryl. Good man. EV Musings. Gary Comerford in North East Hampshire. How terribly posh. He's currently 8 out of 10 in the Mental Health Index. That's good news. Excellent. I like an 8 out of 10. Where are you? Whack it in the comments today. I think I'm about a 7. I would say I've had a tough week. I broke my MacBook Pro. My microphone broke. My microphone arm broke. The tyre on the car I thought had a puncture. It didn't. One of the alloys is cracked. Hooray, £1,000. This is all good news this week. Yeah, I know. So let me know how you're doing. I'm a 7. Screamwash King, James, good to see you, my friend. Scott Eady, it's that time again. He says in a menacing way. Yes, mate.
I love your glass half full approach there. You just wheeled off, no pun intended.
Wheel.
All of those different bad news stories for you, and yet you still gave yourself a 7 out of 10, which I think
Yeah.
Well,
That's our JC.
I reflect the drop of a couple of points because things have not all gone my way this week. But you know what? I think because we all have this connection and we have this mission and we have a purpose in life, you know, nothing's too bad. And I'm not Donald Trump, so it could be worse. Steve Warts, Economy Trucks, lovely to see you here this morning. And Volvo Trucks have already had a mention. Clean Tech Fan, Barbara and Simon, hello. I know it's you from sunny Surrey. Really good to see you on YouTube. Thank you for being here. And then it is the man that is Peter Heath. He's got nice teeth. Lovely to see you. Michael Barton. We're doing a story about Brizzle, my friend. And it's sunny there, apparently. Ron Godfrey stands, puffs chest, breathes in deeply. I love the smell of electricity in the morning. And some people, neurodivergent, can smell electricity. Just saying. Yes. Fact.
Not having it.
Sounds so dismissive. He's like, no,
Go
it can't
check
be.
out
It's
what
only
we
science.
Go check out what we call facts, Sam. Ash Bannister, good morning to you. Belinda Guy, she's in my hometown of Southampton. Give it a love from me. Ben McDonald, hello in Mayhew. He's along the coast in Bournemouth. Laura Huswick, Wilkes, wet and rainy in Yorkshire. Ew. Gemma Robinson from High Trans. Hello, Gemma. It's been lovely to speak to you this week. Ursula Perry from Greenfleet. Happy Friday, peeps. Happy Friday, you. Stuart Clean Energy Advocate Humphrey, which is probably the longest name we've ever had, says good morning, lovely people, and Speedy Sam. So, is Sam not a lovely people? Dev Chakravarti.
Oh, yeah,
good to see you.
excluded.
Sunny Walton on Thames. DEV is in the house. Rob Dustin, good morning to you. Gary Comerford, I think we've already mentioned your North East Hampshire home. He's mentioned it again. I don't know why. He must be very proud. Pam Hanlon, what a boucher. Hello and lovely to see you. Lloyd Allen, I think you're also in Bristol. And Lloyd, Bristol Leap, in fact. And Lloyd, 7 out of 10. It's okay. I know you're late, but it's okay. I don't mind because do you know what? Just pitching up makes our day. Leo Pickford. We had Lillian Greenwood give a talk at UK Logistics Annual Conference on Wednesday. We also had Sarah Jones. So not one, but two MPs and ministers coming to talk about logistics. Brilliant stuff. Really getting behind us. And I get a feeling that Lillian Greenwood would do so much more if she wasn't weighed down by the weight of ministerial office sometimes. Sarah Sloman, get out of my feed. Jennifer Smith, 9 out of 10. Belinda Guy, 9.5. 0.5 deducted because of Virgin Media. Okay, Teresa Swift, 6 out of 10. She needs to get it back up to an 8. If you happen to be talking to Teresa today, give her a hug. Give her a little bit of love because she works so darned hard for us all. Tim Aylan. Tim, lovely to see you. Saw you on TikTok this morning, you naughty boy. Clean Tech fan Barbara and Simon, 7 out of 10. Good to hear. Stuart, 9 out of 10. Good. Gemma Robinson's an 8. Scott Eady, would love to believe I'm late. What? I would love you. Sorry, would you believe I'm late? Can't even read today, and I'm still a 7. Chris Rowthorne, 8 out of 10. Feeling oddly happy. I hope Happy's happy about it. That's just so wrong. Oh, goodness gracious. Sarah Wellstead, looking forward to company car in action next week. I suspect that's where Pablo might be, because we're down a Paul Kirby this week. No punch up with Sam. This is most depressing. I may have to pick up that mantle. And Martin Sweeney, sneaking in at the back of the class. Good to see you. Right, let's move on. Our next story. A survey of Road Haulage Association members and the wider industry has revealed that uncertainty remains high for decarbonisation of logistics and coach sector. According to the RHA, some 70% of HGV operators and even higher, 75% of coach operators had no plans to add zero-emission vehicles to their fleets. In terms of barriers to adoption, almost half of HGV operators, 45%, said their main concern was the lack of range in EHGVs, with more than a third also highlighting high vehicle purchase costs and 30% also citing losing payload space due to heavy batteries. It also found that 12% of HGV operators were planning to introduce hydrogen vehicles within the next 5 years. Sam, gotta come to you to unpick that one. Go.
Guys, isn't that much to unpick, actually. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. I can understand why people are concerned about range and purchase costs and payload, because they are all less or not as productive as the diesel counterparts right now. So, of course, there's a challenge. It's stating the obvious a little bit, but we are working through it. And, the articles like Wincanton that are demonstrating putting their best foot forward, and many others like them, I hasten to add, that are making the effort to find the lowest hanging fruit and get those vehicles on the road, make them work as well as their diesel counterparts, and then learn from that and build on it. So I think I can imagine the uncertainty remains high. Those that are saying we're doing nothing is a worry, because everybody can do something, and that's where it starts. So that's where I think we really need to, or the RHA could do with focusing on those that say, well, I'm doing anything at all. I'd love to know more about that and see whether they could actually do something. And then the 12% of hydrogen vehicles within the next 5 years, yeah, good luck with that. There won't be any vehicles to buy, so that 12% will soon go down. But I think that's probably more just the legacy of a few people still thinking that it's the future in transport, which of course it isn't. But it is what it is.
Michael Barton makes an interesting comment. He says, if they think batteries are expensive, wait until they find out about hydrogen's costs. Yeah, you buy an electrolyzer, see how you go.
Exactly.
It's an expensive old game, but it's interesting, Sarah, that we seem to have the same issues being thrown forward by those saying they don't want to engage in electrification, of range, of the lack of load capacity and so on. Are they just trotting out the same old tropes without really understanding what the vehicles can do for them?
I think it's a waiting game. I do think they feel that there is still time. Being at the SMMT with Transport and Energy a few weeks ago showed me that the coach sector is doing a little better than the HGV. But at the same time, I am looking at coaches. You look at is it Flixbus that runs between sort of London and Bristol? I'm pretty sure that's electric now. Obviously, I've just got back from Holland. they don't even think twice about it. Minibuses and coaches, loads of those are electric because it makes sense. They're predictable. They know where they're going. They can use their depots for other people. And First Bus have demonstrated that. And First Bus, I hope they don't mind me saying this, were a forerunner. So they actually went hybrid for a lot of their buses and then turned their back on electric completely and have now done a complete U-turn, and they're back in the electric game. So it just goes to show what we said about the previous article. This can take a decade. It can take a decade to get a decent infrastructure project tested and up and running. So I'm not so worried about it, but I just hope that the stupid headline grabbers don't get hold of this sort of information. And speaking of headlines, there was that awful one where they were selling off all of the hydrogen vehicles and all the hydrogen refueling equipment the other day, which is a bit sad to see that somebody made a big investment that didn't pay off.
Yeah, Ben McDonald rightly quotes Ember coaches in Scotland. Absolutely outstanding, fully electric coaches that run between Dundee and Edinburgh, Glasgow and Edinburgh, and I think now up to Aberdeen as well. Utterly stunning vehicles, and they provide broadband at a really good rate as well. Very super comfortable. Brilliant piece of kit. Sam?
I was going to say, John, there's another area which I just wanted to highlight in my experience in the last couple of years working in this sector, is there is a generational gap as well. There's a lot of people who are, this is going to be a sweeping generalization, but there's 50, 60-year-olds people, personnel that are in the transport roles that don't feel like this is in their remit. You know, I'm retiring soon it's a phrase I've heard too many times for my liking. So there's definitely a generational thing, I think, that also needs to come through here, and having the right people with the right foresight in the right places will hopefully elicit change and behavioural change. And somebody said, I think in the group here, might have been Leo, quite rightly, the RHA covers an awful lot of SME market. That also is, is very materially different to the big boys that are currently buying the big trucks like Wincanton at the moment. So there's lots of different nuances to this. And as Sarah said, predictability is a key thing when it comes to buses and coaches that have more predictability in their route optimization and a more metronomic process. That is easier to electrify than some of these haulage companies that don't know what their weight's going to be and don't know where they're going to go on any given day. It's much more challenging.
So 22 minutes past 10. Just want to say, Ron Godfrey, Sam and Paul, the Donald Trump and Elon Musk of the EV Café. That's harsh.
Oh, God. Which one are you going to be? which of those two would you rather be? Although I did find out Elon Musk has got an IQ of over 165, which puts him in the sort of the highest ranking intelligence in the world. I'm not sure Trump would do so well, but I'd love to see.
Go Elon Musk 1.0, because the 2.0 or 3.0 he currently is, I've got no time for. But the first half of Elon Musk's career, amazing.
Lucy Aubrey says,
Fair, but that makes Paul
Sam.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, he has to be because he's not here.
Lucy Aubrey, spot on Sam. Sam, have you got a spot?
No, I think they're just all agreeing with me again, John, like usual.
Right, let's move on. We got 3 minutes to do two stories. Demand for used petrol and diesel cars fell year on year 0.5% and by 9.7% for diesel, respectively, Auto Trader said in May. In contrast, demand for alternatively fueled vehicles continue to increase, with hybrids and plug-in hybrids increasing 16 and 27% respectively. Sam will be chewing his arm off in a minute talking about hybrids. The biggest growth in consumer interest, however, continues to be seen in used electric cars, which in May increased 31% year on year, fueled by ongoing softening in prices. The average cost of a used electric vehicle was $24,370 and fell by 7.4% year on year, whilst petrol and diesel car prices grew 0.5% for petrol and 2% for diesel. Wow. So the disparity is even more pronounced with 3 to 5 year old cars, with electric models at this age dropping by 12% versus 3% and 2.4% growth for used and diesel cars. So we're seeing that used EVs are an absolute bargain at the moment. Sarah, it is time. If people are saying, got to buy a new car, chances are, if you want to get your toe wet and step into an electric vehicle, a used one's a good option. especially through Salsac.
That's
things like
exactly
that?
what a few of my friends have done. It doesn't even need to be through Salsac, because you say the affordability's there and all of the depreciation we hope has gone. A classic example, my friend said he would never get out of his diesel van. He ended up buying a Nissan Leaf and has never looked back. He's now on about getting a second electric vehicle. So getting a second-hand vehicle meant it was within their family budget, and they still realised all of the benefits of that. Now, I'm slightly wary of the percentages here. I'd like to see the actual figures, because obviously we know, that's always a worry, but I'm still loving the fact that it is the biggest growth in consumer interest was in used electric cars. I'm on with Abhishek from Cinch in a couple of weeks' time, next week, in fact, at the automotive conference hosted by Shoesmith. And we've got Chris Harris, the Top Gear guy, coming along. So I'll be really keen to see about that, because Abhishek's going to major on this point.
He's a wonderful man, Chris Harris. Really like him. We're going to do the last story, Sam. This is about buses. They're sort of like cars, just bigger, and lots of people
Chauffeur-driven.
get in them. It is chauffeur-driven, in fairness, and I
call it
think
chauffeur-driven.
I wonder if we could have a Guinness World Record for a bus. Thinking that? Nice uniform, Sam. Ill-fitting suit. It's right up your street. Right, Bristol's first electrified bus depot has been opened by a government minister and the West of England's new mayor. The £44 million project was unveiled at Hengrove by local Transport Minister Simon Lightwood, Mayor Helen Godwin and First Bus's acting managing director Rob Pym. The depot in South Bristol has been transformed through a £37.4 million investment from First Bus and £6.6 million funding from the government's Zero Emission Bus Regional Areas, or ZEBRA, project, via the West of England Mayoral Combined Authority. The funding will also see 74 new electric buses in Bristol this summer, transporting more than 230,000 passengers per week on 7 key services across the city. With each bus saving around 75 tonnes of CO2 each year, the equivalent of taking 54 cars off the roads, the move marks a milestone in the company's commitment towards a zero-emission fleet. Sarah, you are very closely attached to all that goes on with public transport down in the southwest. This is brilliant news for Bristol.
I'm absolutely delighted. I accidentally mentioned the prowess that First Bus have displayed, and yet again, the West is best here. I mean, £37.4 million well spent, plus that additional 6 from central government. I am loving this, and Hengrove is the sort of south area of the city, so it does benefit from the sort of outer ring road that gets people to and from where they want to live versus where they want to work. I'm just really happy to hear this, and we know we've got Lloyd Allen on there. I bet you he had something to do with it.
Absolutely. Now then, EV Beano Rod Godfrey has come up with a great idea. Sam should recreate summer holiday driving to Greece in a bus with a group of zany friends. Who might that be?
Who could that be?
Where does it say in a bus?
It didn't say in a
Because
bus.
that's what
but
happens on the that's what happens on the video. Yeah.
Summer Holiday is about Cliff Richard, who gets on a bus with his friends. He's an old pop star. Anyway, you won't know about these people. They're common people. What are you thinking? Who would you take on your summer holiday bus? And if you say Sarah Sloman, I'm going to come down there and sort you out.
That's literally what I was going to say.
Take me, I want to go. I want to go. I'd like
Who
to
would
go.
you go on your summer holiday bus with? Sarah, who would you go with? Who would you take?
It's got to be the whole EV Café crew. It'd be so funny to have Elon and Trump with us.
Oh, but also we'd have to take some of our viewers as well. Who would keep
Get 56 of
things-
them.
Yeah, who would keep things flowing? Who would be the sort of party animal that would lead the trouble? Pam Hanlon, do you think?
100% Pam Hanlon, yes.
Gary Comfort would sit
Yeah.
quietly in the corner and just occasionally have a pithy comment that he'd come out with. Scott Eady would just be talking lots of stuff, and I wouldn't understand a lot of it, but it would make great sense. It just seems to. He delivers stuff with great panache. Michael Barton, he'd be talking about sunny Bristol, even though he was on his way to Greece, which is lovely. And I think Barbara and Simon would be chatting non-stop about electric vehicles and the use of YouTube and how much they enjoy seeing Paul and Sam pulling lumps out of each other. Teresa Swift, you'd just be saying me, 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 or possibly me, me, me. We're all going on a summer holiday. Right, 10:29. It's almost time to stop this nonsense. If you have any clean transport PR or news stories you'd like us to cover, please send them to us at hello@evcafe.org. Until next Friday, it's goodbye from me. It's goodbye from Elon, from Sarah, and the mad thing that is me. This has been an EV Cafe production. I know, but I don't mind being mad. I'm unique, you know. Other sustainability news services are available. But thank you, Sam. But this is just fun. The EV Cafe is truly blessed to be partnered with the AA Webfleet, Europcar, Iveco, Spiri, Schneider Electric, Dynamon, EV Blocks and AW Energy. We are the EV Cafe, supporting the transition to clean transport, ably supported by our EV experts, Drax Electric Vehicles. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend wherever it takes you. Until next Friday, thanks for joining us. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
If you do one thing, be funner.